Holland is a gripping mystery thriller starring Nicole Kidman, packed with shocking twists that redefine the fate of its main character. Kidman, who has enjoyed a remarkable run of success in recent years, continues her streak with this film. Directed by Mimi Cave, Holland transports audiences to the titular town in Michigan, known for its tulips, windmill, and tight-knit community. The story follows Nancy Vandergroot, Kidman, a teacher living a seemingly peaceful life with her husband, Fred Vandergroot, Matthew McFadden, and their son, Harry, Jude Hill. However, Nancy's world is upended when she begins to suspect Fred of infidelity. Seeking support, she confides in fellow teacher Dave, Gael Garcia Bernal, a newcomer to town, and convinces him to help uncover the truth. As Nancy and Dave grow closer, their investigation takes an unexpected turn. What begins as a search for proof of Fred's affair leads to a disturbing revelation, one that shatters their expectations and alters the course of their lives forever. Fred Vandergroot is a well-known optometrist in the small town of Holland, where everyone recognizes him. He frequently travels for work, something Nancy never questioned, until she discovers a receipt in his pocket that contradicts where he claimed to have been. This small inconsistency sets off Nancy's growing suspicion, convincing her that Fred is cheating, despite having no concrete proof. As she digs deeper, Holland unfolds as a slow-burn mystery that steadily builds tension before accelerating into a gripping third act. Determined to uncover the truth, Nancy and Dave break into Fred's office at night. But when she accidentally leaves behind a piece of jewelry, Fred confronts her the next day, suggesting they reset and move forward. However, Nancy is already drawn to Dave and refuses to let go of her suspicions. She wants undeniable proof before leaving Fred, but all she has so far is a box of Polaroid film and that single damning receipt. When Fred leaves town again, Nancy and Dave secretly follow him. While Dave keeps watch at the hotel bar, Nancy sneaks into Fred's room, where she discovers underwear, handcuffs, and dog treats. Though suspicious, the evidence isn't enough to confirm her worst fears. Forced to return home to pick up Harry, Nancy leaves Dave behind to continue tracking Fred. Back in Holland, Nancy digs deeper at the town library, using details from Fred's meticulously crafted town model. What she uncovers is chilling. Several women had vanished over the years, only to be found dead. Meanwhile, Dave watches as Fred meets a young woman. When Dave breaks into her house later that night, he sees her dogs eating the treats from Fred's hotel room, then stumbles upon a horrifying scene: Fred in the act of murdering the woman. A brutal struggle ensues, ending with Dave stabbing Fred with his own knife and sending him tumbling into the lake. Shaken, Dave returns to Holland to tell Nancy that she and Harry are finally safe. But just as they begin to breathe easy, one last shocking revelation awaits. During Holland's Tulip Time Festival, Nancy's friends mention they saw Fred recently. Then, to her horror, Dave spots him in the crowd. Panic sets in. Nancy grabs Harry and rushes to a nearby motel with Dave close behind. Frantic, Dave insists they call the police, but before he can act, a struggle ensues, and a TV topples onto his head, knocking him unconscious. Moments later, Nancy calls for Harry, only to find him outside with Fred. Bloodied but alive, he has survived his fight with Dave. As always, Fred tries to manipulate Nancy, insisting they can reset and move forward. But this time, Nancy refuses to be controlled. Fleeing to the car, she orders Fred to stop and tells Harry to run. Armed with Dave's gun, she fires, but her shot only grazes Fred's cheek and ear. When Harry bravely intervenes, Fred shoves him aside, triggering Nancy's final act of defiance. She grabs a wooden clog, a symbol of the town that once felt safe, and beats Fred to death. Though Fred never faces justice in a courtroom, Nancy ensures he will never harm another woman again. Dave is a recent arrival in Holland, and a teacher at the same school as Nancy. Kind-hearted and dedicated, he genuinely cares for those around him, including his students. However, As a Mexican man in a predominantly white town, he faces racism and isolation. Despite this, Dave remains willing to help, even at great personal risk. Though he harbors feelings for Nancy, he keeps his distance, believing it would be wrong to pursue her while she's still married. Instead, when Nancy decides to leave Fred, Dave steps up, offering to help her uncover the proof she needs. After his violent confrontation with Fred, Dave is certain Fred is dead, but paranoia lingers. Haunted by nightmares of Fred emerging from the lake and the murdered woman's dogs licking blood from the floor, he remains on edge. Determined to keep Nancy and Harry safe, he arms himself and attends the Tulip Time Festival, only to spot Fred alive in the crowd. As events spiral, Dave follows Nancy and Harry to a motel, urging her to call the police. But in a panicked struggle, Nancy pushes him, causing a TV to fall on his head, leaving him injured and unconscious. When Nancy returns to the motel after killing Fred, Dave is gone. In the film's final moments, the narration shifts between him and Nancy, offering an ambiguous ending to his fate. Though Dave survives his wounds, there is no mention of him and Nancy ending up together. It is heavily implied that, after everything, he disappears from Holland, leaving the town and its horrors behind. From the very beginning of Holland, Fred's intricate town model takes center stage, with the camera gliding through its miniature streets during the opening credits. To the outside world, it appears to be a harmless hobby, a shared project between Fred and his son, Harry, in their garage. However, beneath its carefully crafted facade lies something far more sinister. The first unsettling clue emerges when Nancy notices a tiny sign on one of the model's houses, identical to one she saw in Fred's Polaroids. Her curiosity leads her to a quick search, revealing the name Lacey Ann, a woman murdered 3 years earlier. As Nancy digs deeper, she uncovers a disturbing pattern: multiple women who were killed in recent years, all near Holland. Piece by piece, she connects their deaths to the streets and houses in Fred's model. What once seemed like a simple replica is, in reality, Fred's chilling record of his crimes, a miniature map of the murders he has meticulously planned and carried out. When Dave assures Nancy that she's safe, that Fred is gone for good, her reaction isn't what he expected. Instead of agreeing to leave town with him and Harry, she refuses, insisting they must stay. She argues that uprooting Harry's life isn't an option, especially with the festival approaching. More than that, she suggests they bury the truth about Fred's crimes, just as Holland has always buried its darkest secrets. Throughout Holland, Nancy is portrayed as deeply traditional, often struggling to assert her own agency. The town has become her refuge, the only place where she has ever felt secure. Even after learning the horrifying truth about her husband, she clings to the life she knows. Early in the film, Nancy recalls how Fred rescued her, bringing her to Holland and giving her what she believed was a perfect life. That illusion has since shattered, but her attachment to the town remains unshaken. Despite everything, she chooses to stay, unwilling to abandon the safety and comfort she has found there. By the end of Holland, it's clear that Nancy and Harry never leave. Instead, they simply move on, carrying the weight of Fred's crimes with them, just as the town always has. The final voiceover in Holland begins with Dave before overlapping with Nancy, blending their perspectives as they share feelings of fear, insecurity, and invisibility. Nancy reflects that she has finally found a way out, but both she and Dave question whether any of it was even real. While Nancy escapes her marriage, though not Holland itself, Dave finds his way out of a town that was never truly his home. Their shared experiences, the deception, the violence, the revelations are so overwhelming that they begin to feel surreal. But their questioning isn't meant to suggest that Holland didn't happen. Rather, it highlights how trauma can distort reality. Throughout the film, Dave and Nancy provide each other with the comfort, support, and companionship they both lack. Yet, at their core, they are fundamentally different. Dave witnesses a brutal murder and nearly becomes a killer himself. Nancy discovers her husband is a serial murderer and must fight for her and her son's survival. Their journeys are equally harrowing, but they lead them down separate paths. In the end, their shared doubt only underscores a deeper truth. No two people experience the world the same way. And in the aftermath of horror, everyone copes in the only way they know how.